it's all so new, isn't it? So what was that like for
Yeah,
you?
it is. Yeah, the first one was more about just meeting him
Yeah.
and seeing what is this kid, what's up with him. And initially we thought, what's the problem here? Because he was just a kid,
Yeah.
absolutely no different to anybody else whatsoever. The problem was then we started learning him better as well, and he was quite a small, a bit undersized for his age, a bit, not skinny, but a bit, not having any weight there. So having a really hard time at home with a lot of siblings, quite a variety of dads, should we say, and some of them in jail, and it was quite messy home situation, really.
Tricky.
Very.
Yeah.
Including some violence we know of, and there was just things that kids shouldn't be involved in, really.
Yeah.
And it was okay in that sense, but then he didn't have anywhere to get rid of all his energy and get out with it. So he took it out at school on other kids, he didn't want to do any homework, and he was not performing well, and he got branded as being the troublemaker and everything around it. But there's nothing unusual in it when you don't have anywhere else to go with it. So that's what happened. And it all just became too much for him, essentially. He's 10 years old at that point. So obviously nobody can take that.
No.
Some of it he took his younger siblings. He was the second oldest. And some days he had to get them out of bed and get them prepared to go out the door. And that's just adult responsibility, not for kids.
Yeah.
So we quite quickly found out that for him, all we needed to do was basically show him a different world. Take him out and make him be a kid again. And allow him to just have fun. So we took him out on a variety of things, and simple things, such as going in and having a big pudding in the restaurant after he had his lunch or his evening meal, because they couldn't afford it.
Yeah. All you gave up was a couple of hours a week.
It's not more than that, no. It
And
really isn't.
But it's had
It
such
changes
a
a life.
change.
It's a life change.
It's mental, isn't it?
So it's a big one.
Yeah.
So of course, some of the times we met with him and we talked with him, he was actually still, he might have had a rough day or whatever it was, and he was still grumpy when we met him. And he was not in good mood sometime. But you need to understand why. And then you just take it from there and you just go for a walk and have a chat. And sometimes he would open up and talk about it, and sometimes he would shut it down and was just a grumpy person.
Yeah.
He was also starting to be a teenager, so there was some stuff coming in. So it's not always just going out for a pudding or anything, and they're not opening up automatically.
Yeah, it definitely takes time to build the trust.
Yes, and you need to let them do it.
Yeah.
And that takes a bit of patience. It's not a one-day thing.
No.
But what we've seen is that 10 years later, it's completely changed the person. And that's impressive.
Yeah, yeah. Going back to that, my mentee used to, right at the beginning of the relationships, I've only sort of been with him over a year, and right at the beginning of the relationship, it was incredibly hard to sort of get him away from mum. So he had to go around for a session. If he was playing on his PS4 or whatever, that would be it. He'd kind of just want to stay there and be attached.
So be next to him while he was playing?
Well, no, because that was his comfort zone. That was where he felt comfortable. That was almost where he felt safe, I guess. So it was trying to then bring him away from that to show him that he could go outside and still feel safe and still feel like have a comfort zone outside whilst doing something else and interacting and building social skills and building confidence. And that's hard.
Yes.
Because you don't want to be like, no, you can't play on that. Like, come on, let's get you out.
Yeah.
It's building that. It's like it's going back. It's building that trust. It's building that relationship.
Yeah.
To come out of the situation.
So have you seen any change from that, like in school and everything else, I guess, around social skills?
Yeah, social skills massively. And I pick him up from school sometimes, like before our sessions. And it's kind of like, bye mum, off we go, which is so different to kind of how it used to be. It's like, where are we going today kind of thing, which is so nice because it's like they're kind of happy to see you, and it's like they know that they're going to go out and they're going to have fun, and they can put whatever rubbish that they've had during the day or during the week or whatever to one side if they want to. But if they don't want to, they can talk about it, and they know. It's like going back to what you were saying about the walk. It's like they can if they want to, and if not, they can just shut it off, and you just have to. That's hard because you just kind of have to allow that and kind of accept that at that moment in time they don't necessarily want to talk about it, but you want to do everything in your power to help. So it's then kind of finding that balance, but with time it all kind of.
It's a lot about building the trust.
Yeah, it all just builds.
Yeah.
Builds up. A prime incident was that a couple of weeks ago, I just got in the car, and he just went, "I've just had a really rubbish day at school," and it just went, and I was just like, where did that come from? Like, you know, when you're just like, normally it's me, how was school? But it was nothing. It was, I've just had a really rubbish day at school, and it just all unfolded. And I said to Mum, I was like, wow. Like, 6 months ago, that wouldn't have happened. So that shows that the trust in the relationship that you've then pursued for so long and tried to build and build and build does eventually pay.
Yes.
Does eventually pay off.
From our side, we found as well that after a while, when they figure out that what you're talking about does not go back to their family and to their friends and whatever, you start building a lot quicker.
Yes.
But it takes time before they figure out that actually it is confidential
Just
what you're talking about. And you don't have the relationship for their normal area.
Yeah.
And it takes time to get to that point.
Yeah. And I think, as I said, I think when you do get to that point, that's it. It's kind of something in them just goes, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm safe.
Yeah.
And I know I'm safe to talk about whatever I want to talk about without Mum finding out, without Dad, whoever, without school finding out. So if I want to talk about my teacher, I can, like, because this person isn't going to tell anybody. And I think that's such a huge part of the whole trusting, isn't it? It's reinforcing that without sounding like they could bring you the toughest situation, but it is almost trying to draw the positives and the funny things out of it, isn't it, in some respects? So if they, you know, I don't know, a situation at home that's awful or whatever, but what did you do well in that situation? So you're almost building their confidence through a rubbish situation as well, in some respects.
Yes. We had situations where I felt we were not well enough equipped for what he had seen in his background.
That's tough.
We are not counsellors, and we haven't had training on it, and we felt quite touched and hurt, and that anybody could do that with kids. We never brought it up, I think, because we actually didn't know how to bring it up. And I'm not sure we should have or not. But on the other hand, we're not there as professional counsellors either.
No.
That needs to be taken elsewhere. It is more to give a chance of allowing them to come out with what they need to come out with.
It's finding the boundary, isn't it?
Yeah,
in a tricky situation.
Yeah, and what we were not leading towards it at any point, but we had talked about if any of this came out from him, we would need to take it on and actually deal with it as it came and just support him. Yeah. Because then there was a reason that he would have enough trust in us to come out with it and that we could talk about it. But there was also things in there potentially from a violent point of view that may have been incriminating as well. So we were prepared that there could be things that could come out here that we may or may not want to hear even. Yeah. So it is for us. It was a very different world to get into. Yeah. And see.
I think that is it, because we're working with such vulnerable young children. You do just get exposed to things that, like you said, children shouldn't be exposed to. So us as adults then sit and go,
well, to some extent I'm ashamed it happens.
Yeah.
Anywhere in society. So that's also spurs me on to do more about it.
Exactly.
And help.
Help where you can.
Yes, definitely, yeah. But we found it rewarding in the sense that we didn't find it rewarding at the time to some extent because we didn't see the impact of it. Yeah. When you're in it, you don't see what you're doing and does it work. We often asked, like, are we doing any good for him at all? What is it worth? Should we continue doing it? Does it help? Because there's no evidence of it, and certainly not 10 years ago, because it was only just starting. Yeah. It was a leap of blind faith from a lot of people around the island, really, with mentors and organisers, and whether or not this would actually work. But now seeing it 10 years on, and what the impact has been, there's absolutely no doubt about it. Yeah. It does work. And it might only be an hour a week you're spending on that person, or 2 hours a week. But the impact is massive, because you're showing completely a different way and a different world that they would, as kids, would not have the imagination to think outside of, and to come to a conclusion that could even exist in their world. And just to break that boundary down is all that's needed, really. And that little time spent is worth a lot.
Yeah, I think that's key, isn't it? It is literally just, what do they say, 3 hours maximum a week or something, depending on like the activity that you're doing. So obviously you could go to the cinema or whatever, but it does make such a big difference. And I think you almost have to sometimes take a step back and reflect on, I find myself sometimes taking a step back and reflecting on 6 months ago, and then looking at now, looking at a year ago, and looking at where kind of you were, and then you look at the bumps that you had in the road, but then you look at kind of the big moments of achievement where he's gone and got a certificate in school for, you know, doing really well in whatever, or it's the little things then that are kind of, that stand out as this big achievement that in some respects you've had an impact on, and you've helped influencing kind of the right direction.
Yes, the rewards come in small lumps once in a while.
Yeah.
And usually you get the reward from a big smiling face.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when you know you've actually gotten it right.
Yeah.